mics are hot.
No, not ready.
Please.
It's too late. Mics are hot.
Too late.
Hurry.
Hi, Ben. I'm Josiah.
Josiah,
Nice to meet you.
Still got that scone working on?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. I don't know. Were you here yesterday at all?
Mhm.
Okay, cool. So you don't have to be reintroduced to this guy then?
I mean, a little bit, kind of, because he was introduced to me as Steven, right?
Mhm.
And so, just kind of went through the whole interview with Steven. Then we get outside and we were talking a little bit and find out that he goes by Destiny online.
Destiny is his birth name. Steven is his
his chosen name.
His social media handle. So
yesterday we were talking and I was letting everybody know that I'm, not a very tech savvy, not a very online person or anything. And you're the only name that I'd known of from all the people, because one of the podcasts that I listen to all the time and kind of, I don't want to say radicalized me, but it really kind of got me onto this side of things is a Knowledge Fight, where they cover Alex Jones, and I got to listen to your debate performance against Alex Jones and a couple other J6ers, and that was a fun episode. This little 3-hour episode.
I don't know if he would describe it that way, but it was definitely fun for the rest of us to watch. There's no question about that. Yeah.
It was fun back then before I had genuine hatred in my heart.
Before things changed.
It was fun back then.
Yeah.
Does he just radiate booze?
Who, alcohol? I'm sorry, I was almost saying Alcohol Jones.
Alcoholics Jones.
No, I don't think so, actually. I don't think he was drunk at all. I think he's a very high impact, high energy individual.
Okay.
He's definitely a character.
Yeah, he is.
I heard his company is being seized and divvied up and
day
sold
after
off.
my birthday.
Hey, happy birthday then! Congratulations! What a gift.
The auction starts day after my birthday, so I'm looking forward to it.
That's awesome. You celebrate in style then. So this is our first time meeting. So Ben, my understanding is that you are running for, is it the 5th congressional district?
Yep.
So let's talk about this. Fill me in. Why are you shaking your? See, you tried to.
I'm not on camera. Don't point that out. Go ahead. I'm just messing with you.
No,
Is he not?
No, as soon as you point to him, I'll
Oh my God.
I am, all right? You're not used to my high-end camera swap.
Okay, 5th congressional district. It's very red.
Very red district, yep. So it's all of Waukesha, Washington, and Jefferson counties in their entirety. And then we have half of Dodge County. So everything basically south of Beaver Dam is all in my district.
I want to make sure I get my geography right here. So I was at a Trump rally earlier today in Juneau.
Yeah.
That's
Dodge County. Yep,
That
that's
would
in
be
my
your
district.
area. Okay.
Yep. So that's
All right.
actually the guy that I'm running against. I'm assuming he was there, Scott Fitzgerald. I believe he grew up in Juneau or kind of around that area. He represented them for their assembly seat, I think. But yeah, he's kind of from that whole area. He's been born and raised in this area. But I'm sure he was up there. It'd be the first time he was back in the district in months or weeks, because he just never comes back here. He's always in D.C. or out at his ranch in Montana, and just never back here in Wisconsin.
That seems like an ideal place to represent Wisconsin constituents is in Montana. Yeah.
I mean, just to be fair, Montana is one of the most beautiful places in the world.
It is.
So if I could represent from Montana,
he might ought to run in Montana and free you up. That might be a good idea. So you said it's a deeply conservative district. Okay, so I imagine then you're in for a tough proverbial battle then in the upcoming election.
Yeah, and we kind of knew it going in that it was a pretty red district. It's one of the reddest districts in the entire country. It's been held by Republicans for decades and decades, since the early 70s. But we kind of saw with the Judge Janet Protasewicz election, which was back in, you obviously know about Judge Janet. That kind of gave us a lot of hope, just seeing what she did with the WOW counties, because the WOW counties are Waukesha, Ozaukee, and Washington counties. I have 2 of those in my district, and so they're very deeply red districts. But she narrowed the gap so much in those districts that it was a pretty big win for her for the entire state. And she ran as a pro-choice justice, and she narrowed the gap in those areas. And I just kind of knew that after the Dobbs decision came down and they overturned Roe v. Wade, that it was going to be a lot of women making a decision, and a lot of young people, making the decision to vote for the first time in their lives. And coming from somebody, I've always been, kind of, politically savvy, but never, like William Walter, you just had on, he's way more politically savvy than I am. He's been involved, for a long time. He has his own organization and everything, not to talk him up too much, but, I just kind of followed politics, and seeing what she did in those districts, just really made me hopeful that we can win this election, and more hopeful that young people are actually going to get out and vote and make their voices heard. So that was kind of our big goal. And then when Kamala jumped in the race, back in July, and we saw that voter registration skyrocket by like 400% or something. It was just so cool and so reassuring to see those numbers come out.
I mean, I'm thinking about it. So you have a success story with Justice Protasewicz. You have Vice President Harris as the nominee, which energized the base, and then probably the most powerful woman in the world, Taylor freaking Swift, endorsing Kamala Harris. We saw a huge, colossal spike in voter registration. So would you say, obviously nothing's set in stone, but you're feeling, I assume, more confident that this is going to mobilize Gen Z and younger voters as a consequence of all these things?
I really hope so, because that's, the 18 to 35 demographic has been the worst demographic in terms of voters. Because we just don't think it matters. You're like, oh, well, I live in a red district, it's not going to matter. Texas, perfect example. The 2016 or the 2020 election, went towards Republicans, just like every other election has gone, in Texas for years and years. And then you actually look at the voter data, and you see that there was over 10 million people that were registered or eligible to vote and didn't vote.
Sure.
Democrats lost Texas by 2 million votes. And we have over 10 million people that just went, oh, Texas is red, it's not going to matter. And then you sit there and granted, not every single one of those people is going to be a Democrat, but holy shit, 10 million people didn't vote. And I always say it to people, when they complain about politics and this and that, and you're just like, did you vote in the last election? Oh, well, no, it didn't matter. Shut up. If you didn't vote, you didn't go out. Yeah, it's just then stop complaining about it.
I'm curious, a culture question. I'm curious if this impacts young voters at all. So coming from Omaha, not to talk down my state or my city, the feeling is, or it feels like there's a general feeling in the Midwest, maybe outside of Chicago, screw Chicago, okay, but it feels like there's a general feeling in the Midwest that success means that you leave as soon as possible. You want to go to the coasts, maybe Texas, and that's you don't want to stay, at least from Omaha, you don't want to stay in Omaha, right? You want to go you want to go to the East Coast, you want to be in Washington or in California. Do you think that impacts young people's drive to vote? When I think of older people voting, I think of that voting is a function of them feeling a genuine, true investment in their community. They have a spouse, they might have children. That makes you a lot more interested in schools, makes you a lot more interested in local politics. And if you're a kid and you're going to school and you're I'm moving anyway, screw it. Is that a Wisconsin feeling, or do we only feel this in Nebraska, where people wanted to kind of leave as soon as they graduated college? Or
I think Nebraska might be a little more unique in that. Just real quick aside, I drove. This was way back in college. I was driving out to Red Rocks to see a concert, and I drove the night shift to get there, right? And so at 3:00 in the morning, I can see the sun kind of coming up, and I'm like, oh my god, the Rockies, that's so cool. I was like, we're gonna be there in 2-3 hours. 8 hours later, I still see those frickin' mountains, the exact same size. I could see all the way across the entire state of Nebraska into Colorado, and it just took forever to get there. So I have a little...
Do you think that might have more to do with you being a Wisconsin driver and not that the actual state itself?
The speed limit's 80 down there because they just want people to get out of Nebraska,
Because we're going to pass you guys through our state. Okay. I regret asking this question. Okay,
no.
I do agree. It is a huge problem getting young people to vote. It's very, very, very frustrating because not to be negative, especially based on what you guys do, but obviously when I speak on stream and I'm talking nationally, my advice is always to Biden and Kamala, when you guys are doing policy, you talk about student loan debt forgiveness, screw all of that. Don't waste any political capital. Young people are never voting anyways. Do whatever you can to piss them off. Who cares? It doesn't matter. These people are never going to show up at the polls. And I say that half ironically, but it is very frustrating that sometimes you get groups of people. I want to say there was a big BLM. It was either a protest or a riot, but people had gotten arrested up in, it was either Portland or Seattle, and because of the state they were in, you could look up the voter registries, and it was half the people that were arrested, I think had never voted before. They were no, guys,
I remember
this is harder.
That,
going out and protesting and getting, that's harder than voting.
Way harder than voting.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And one of the things that I say to people every time I'm out giving speeches or talking to voters, doing canvas events and things like that is, you hear people talk about the negativity and how terrible everything is right now, know? And so I always tell them, I'm like, hey, you know, like turn that anger into action, like go do something about it. So you can sit here like, hey, thanks for coming to the event, that's awesome, but like go knock doors. But you know, back to your earlier question, I'd never really thought about that before, about people not being invested in the place that they're living right now. I know
if
that
you're younger, you might just be on your way out or something.
Right, but I know that in Madison, my wife graduated from UW. That's where we met, was in Madison. I know there was a pretty big voting culture there. Like it wasn't, you know, anything where they're voting at like a 90-95% clip. But I mean, you talk to 15 people, I'd say like, you know, 10 or 11 of them, you know, would be like, yeah, you know, I think I'm going to go out and vote. Well, are you registered? Oh, no, I haven't registered yet. And then so that's kind of where you have that pitfall. But
one of the things that I stress to people when I'm talking to people is like activism and door knocking, all that are great, but truly nothing matters if you don't go and vote. That at the end of the day, I think people, and I take extremist views on this, but like the constituents of a politician are not the people that live in his district. Those people don't matter. The only people that matter are the ones that actually go out and vote. And those are always going to be the people that a politician should appeal to, because if you appeal to people that don't vote, you're not going to be reelected. So you can do all the good things that you want for a certain group of people, but they don't actually show up the polls to vote for you. You're out of office immediately, and then some other guy's going to come in for the people that do vote. And I think there are a lot of issues in the United States that when you poll them, like on a survey, and you look at things like, well, how can we all feel this way about this issue or this way about that issue, and nothing's happening? I think crime and policing is a good one. It's like, why isn't anything changing here? It's like, well, look at who's more likely to vote, right? Older people, more affluent people, whiter people. Like, you know, 62-year-old Jerry, who's just starting to collect Social Security, is not getting arrested. He doesn't care about policing policy. It's never going to change when your main voter block of people are people that don't interact with the police at all, except maybe to say, good morning, officer, as they like walk out the, like the coffee shop. So yeah, getting people to actually show up and vote at the polls it's like two halves of like an essential, like two elements of things that have to happen, and that without the voting side, almost nothing else matters. I mean, it's everything you can do helps, but like, God, you got to vote. You have to vote. You have to vote.
Well, it all to your point. It's all designed to leverage a vote, right?
Yes, that's the point.
Yeah, exactly. So as important as activism is in funding, like when we were talking with William earlier, you know, obviously people have enormous criticisms of the influence of big money in elections.
United.
Right, 100%.
I've had 3 speeches today mentioning every single one of them.
But at the end of the day, even that money is designed to leverage votes. Votes is the single, it's not the end all be all, but it is the single most important component of civic engagement. There's no question.
People will say things like, oh, Citizens United is a horrible thing. It's like, why is it so horrible? Well, because they can spend so much money on advertising. Why is that bad? Well, because they get so many more people to go out and vote. Okay,
That's
wait,
it.
so why not like go vote? Well, voting doesn't matter. Then why do you care about Citizens United? Let them waste all their money advertising. Voting doesn't matter anyway. Who cares? Yeah, and it's also crazy. I brought this up a few times. It's come up a lot. Going down into black communities in the South and door knocking and stuff, seeing people online who say things like, I don't care about voting, it doesn't help anyway, and then seeing how protective some, especially black voters in Savannah, were about their vote, and then, you know, reading things around, you know, in the 60s, civil rights and everything, about how important it was, like, you know, having the right to vote and who you vote for and what you're fighting for is so important. And it's really sad that you have this whole group of people who are like, it's a pithy quote, it's like, you've given up on something, or you've declared that something's useless without even trying it, basically. Yeah, like, oh, the system doesn't even do anything. I'm not even going to bother trying. It's like, have you even tried? Like,
well, also, and this is what makes Wisconsin kind of like a really interesting example, even relative to other states, is you know voting is important because, as a general proposition, Republicans do everything in their power to
stop you from voting.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right. And so I do want to talk about that because, you know, so I live in North Carolina, one of the most criminally gerrymandered states in the country. And
I mean,
preaching to the choir. Right. And until Justice Protasewicz was elected last year and flipped the balance of the court to a more liberal or sane, balance, you all had some of the most gerrymandered maps in the country. And my understanding is
the most gerrymandered. They got a 3% rating from.
It was Harvard or Yale. One of their democracy poll rating systems, whatever they. I'm gonna Google it.
So
I'm just repeating what you said. So they got a 3.
Well, there you go. So we in North Carolina, we're coming for that title. We really wanted to have the most gerrymandered states in the country. My question is in terms of, you have a Democratic governor here. He told me that you had a bicameral legislature with a Republican supermajority in one, close to a Republican supermajority
like
second.
2 seats away from the supermajority.
What's the voting situation like here? Are Republicans in Wisconsin, are they still hell-bent on gerrymandering and voter suppression? What's that looking like? And how has your opponent contributed to like this overall atmosphere of voting turnout and civic engagement, stuff like that?
I mean, he helped draw the maps, so
okay. Yeah.
so that's a big part of it. He was started in the assembly, then he went to the Senate, and now he helped draw the maps for his own congressional
So his
district.
fingerprints are all over.
All over,
Yeah,
they're all
okay.
over the state, and that's why there's so many Republicans that really dislike him. Because as you said, we do have a Democratic governor. We've had a Democratic governor for, minus when we had Scott Walker and Act 10 back in 2010. We have a lot of like Democratic turnout, and when you look at the 2022 elections that we had for the state assembly and Senate, I think we had like 68% like Democratic turnout, like in terms of like just the number of sheer votes that happened, and that translated to like 30% of the seats.
Wow.
And I just I've never been great at math unless it's like milligrams to kilogram, like drug calculations. But
Okay.
I'm a paramedic, so I have to do those.
Okay,
Oh yeah, I was about to say.
okay. So I'm
Okay.
Ben. I'm a paramedic, a
Yeah,
firefighter.
3.5 grams, about an 8 grams.
Yeah, I saw your website.
I hold them on this, just kind of do one of these, and I'm like,
Jesus.
Yeah,
about
man,
right.
I saw on your website that you really support cannabis legalization. So I was like, where are we going with this, man? Where are we going? Okay.
Anyway,
Probably should have led with that.
Yeah.
But yeah, so when we have like over 60, we have 2/3 of the vote coming out saying hey, we want these Democratic people to help lead our assembly and Senate districts, and then we end up getting 1/3 of those seats. The math doesn't math at that point. So it's so frustrating to be in a state that you see, we have Tammy Baldwin right now as our, one of our senators. I won't mention the other.
Hey, you also have
gentleman.
Ron Johnson, okay? Yeah, all right.
Moving on.
Yeah.
And it's just so frustrating because we even have a lot of Republicans that vote for Tammy Baldwin.
Sure.
I've talked to many of them who say I'll never vote for a Democrat ever, and I'm like, well, you're talking to me and you agree with everything that I'm talking about, and they go, well, every once in a while I'll vote for a Democrat, and I go, what about Tammy Baldwin? Oh yeah, vote for her last 2 races, and I'm like, okay, so. You do vote for Democrats. So, oh well, yeah, but not all the time.
Not proudly, apparently.
Yeah, not proudly.
Not
But
outspokenly.
it's when you go to the ballot box, you're
cares,
the
right?
only
Yeah.
person in there, right? I can vote, all Republican and come out and talk to my wife and be like, yeah, here we go, Dems, let's do this. She's not going to know that.
Right.
But yeah, it's just
Great marriage advice that he's offering there. Vote one way, lie to your spouse. It's okay. No.
Hey,
Yeah.
it might work in this election.
Fair enough. Yeah, whatever it takes to win. That's
Whatever
right.
it takes
Yeah.
to win. But yeah, so it's just so frustrating, and I'm so excited to see what happens with these new maps that we have, these fairer maps, because then they're also going to hopefully be able to redraw the congressional districts. So in 2026, hopefully I'll be running as the incumbent in a new congressional district.
Yeah, remind me. So there was a recent case on this, and when do those new maps go into effect?
They're in effect right now. So
solid.
they put
Okay.
lawsuits forward for the state assembly and Senate districts. Then they also put a lawsuit forward for the congressional districts. And being that Republicans control, everything in the state house, the Republicans were like, "Oh my God, we can't draw 3 brand new sets of maps." And so the people that put the lawsuit forward for the congressional maps said, "Okay, that's fine. We'll wait.
Wait, can I ask a kind of a maybe dumb civics question? Do state district maps for your state, and here it's the state assembly system, do those at all have anything to do with the federally drawn state district maps? No. Okay, they're completely separate. Okay,
they're completely separate. But yeah, so when they withdrew that congressional lawsuit, the state Republicans were kind of like, "Oh shit, we thought that would work," because then they had to redraw those maps. So now that they've redrawn the maps, we have a lot, fairer districts. Some are still very uphill red battles, like Williams District, but we're still doing it to move the needle. Him and I have talked a whole bunch about it. It's all about moving the needle. Hopefully I can, bend that needle to at least 50.01%, because then we win. And that's, kind of been the whole goal of all of this, is moving the needle forward. And then especially in 2026, when we again hopefully have better, fairer maps for the congressional districts, then we can really move that needle even further forward.
So, hopefully you win. I'm trying to imagine an affirmative agenda. What would this look like if we have, you replacing Scott Fitzgerald, if we have, Vice President Harris, God willing, become president, and we keep the Senate, what sort of agenda would you like to see, would you like to bring to the United States government representing Wisconsin?
So it kind of just, like the big picture. We know that whenever we have, like a presidential election, the following midterms, whoever is in office usually ends up losing either the House or the Senate. They lose seats. And that always happens because people are, angry about this, that, and the other thing. They can't wait for change to actually happen. So I think that when we take back the House, when we keep the Senate, expand the Senate, and when we can keep the White House as a Democrat, we need to go absolutely apeshit on policy. We need to give people everything that they've been wanting, and it has to be just we need marijuana legalization in the first 100 days. Like, that absolutely has to happen, just so you can point to something immediately that says, hey guys, younger generation that never votes, but you did turn up for us this time. You've been clamoring for marijuana legalization. Here it is. Go smoke all the pot you want. And we're going to tax it at 5.5%. Then we can use that money to help, what I want to do, which is revamp our 911 system. I want to have a much better, more robust national 911 system because, have you guys ever called 911 before?
I've not had a couple times, but.
So it's usually about, kind of like whenever I ask this at like speeches or in rooms or anything, it's always about, like maybe a quarter of the people have. And every time I ask, like how did that go for you? How was your experience? And it's about a 50-50 split of people saying it was awful. I was on hold, trying to report, somebody breaking into my car for 15-20 minutes, or my grandpa had a heart attack and it took him 40 minutes to get there. And it's because we've been understaffing, underfunding, and just not giving two shits about EMS, fire, and police for the longest time. And, I know a lot of people have their issues with the police, but, that is part of the whole 911 system. So, I can't exclude, one leg of this tripod, because all three of them do, in a perfect world, all work in conjunction to help keep their communities safe. And especially being, somebody running in a rural, red district, that is something that we've been pushing. That's kind of been like the number one policy issue that we've been pushing to everybody, just because we know that whether you're on the left or the right, if you call 911 and you pay your taxes, you really want somebody to answer the phone. You want them to be there in a timely manner. You want them to be, very high-skilled, qualified people to help you in your, one of the worst times of your life. So I think that we just need to do really robust legislation that people have been asking for. So, gun reform. We need just background checks. Like, my dad is very conservative. I don't know if he would vote for me if he lived in my district, which is unfortunate. But he owns a ton of guns. And so that's one of the things that my dad and I talk about all the time. He's a very safe, responsible gun owner. It's me, him, and my brother are the only three people that know the code to his gun safe. My brother passed away last year, so now it's just me and my dad that know the number to his gun safe. And he's, he teaches all of his kids how to shoot, how to clean, how to be responsible gun owners. So, I'm not worried about my dad, doing anything wrong with his gun. And I always ask him, I'm just like, Dad, tell me any reason whatsoever why you need a gun today or tomorrow. And he goes, well, I can't really think of anything. And I'm like, yeah, neither has anybody. I've talked to people in the NRA at like all the county fairs that I went to, because the NRA booth always seemed to be right across from the Democrat booth. And so I would ask the people at the NRA booth, like, give me one reason why you need a gun tomorrow.
And I mean procuring a new gun.
Getting a new gun, yeah.
Gotcha, yeah.
And
well, that's an easy one. Go to the range with some friends, and then John shows up. He pulls out a sick new piece that you didn't know he had. You just have your whatever Glock 19 boring pistol. You might have to run back out to the gun shop and buy a really sick,
because it's a competition.
Really sick. Yeah, you might have to get a pistol carbine, a little Vector. You might have something really cool. And now the guy's like, well, actually, because of this new Wisconsin representative, you're gonna have to wait 6 days, and you're gonna have to shoot your loser handgun next to John.
Yeah, Ben, did you think about that?
So I did, but I think you missed the beginning of my question when I said any good reason.
Oh, okay.
Oh, so looking like a loser at the range is acceptable to you.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think it is, but, all these people that, responsible gun owners is how, you always bring it forward. And as a responsible gun owner, give me one reason. I haven't gotten one yet. I take that back. I had one person say, well, what if your friends invite you on a hunting trip? And I'm like, your friends planned this extravagant, 2-week-long hunting trip, and nobody had a fucking gun.
And for most of those,
it's not
don't
very
you need-
responsible.
And you need like tags and stuff anyway to hunt and everything, don't you? I don't think you, And on the flip side of this, it's not that there aren't good reasons not to, or there generally isn't a reason why you need one immediately. There's, I think, often very good reasons why you shouldn't give people one immediately, because I think they're, I wish I could remember this offhand. I think it's one of the few times there's like research related to gun violence, but people that are like heat at the moment will run to a gun store, buy a weapon, and then use it immediately for a crime. That happens a little bit more often than people realize. And for a lot of types of violence, self-inflicted or inflicted on other people, sometimes a person just needs like a 24-hour
Cool down.
calm the fuck down.
Yeah.
When you're calling
Take a
you call like the suicide hotline. You're not looking for a guy to fix all your problems. You just need somebody to like chat with for a little bit, to like back you off the cliff and like calm the fuck down and chill out and then kind of move forward. And there are a few things, and it's one of the things that irritates me because I feel like Democrats focus on dumb things. Personally, like assault rifle obsession, I think it's like weird to fixate so much on that. And then Republicans won't give anything when it comes to any sort of gun regulation stuff, even though I feel like most responsible gun owners, or every responsible gun owner, should be able to reasonably say like, yeah, you can have like a 3 to 5 day waiting period when you buy a gun. There shouldn't be any issue with that. It's totally fine.
And I've never, with these responsible gun owners that I've talked to, I've never had any pushbacks. Even because I always say 2 weeks is what I say, just to kind of get like the max of what you can. And whenever I say like the 2 week waiting period, every single one of them kind of goes, yeah, I'm fine with that. Like, okay, whatever. So it's like, I mean, it's not an issue. And then again, we can go back to tie it all into Citizens United. It's all about, because who's funding these politicians' next re-election campaign. And it does, you did make some good points about, the Citizens United thing. But when it comes to actual like votes for, because it is, votes are very important. But, we only have 437 of them in the House. And who's paying for those votes? Citizens United says anybody can, except for you, because you have a $3,600 max that you can give.
Camera's on YouTube for like 2 seconds.
Oh, shit.
It's on Josiah.
You're not in camera.
Oh,
That's her polite way of telling you we're done
just
with
don't
you.
talk. Yeah,
We're done
I'll
with
just
you.
get up and go. Well, while we're on that tangent though, I think Stephen just mentioned something about. He said a study, and it reminded me. I think it's called the Dickey Amendment, which prevents the federal government from like doing research into gun control like the CDC.
Yep.
So I suppose you would support repealing that, and so that the CDC can.
That should be easy for Republicans, because they don't believe anything from the CDC anyway. So who
That's
cares,
true.
right?
Like, yeah, why do you care what they say? You're just going to shrug and be like, yeah, it's fake news, right? Yeah. No, definitely. A lot of that sounds pretty promising. But to your point, it's one of these things where we gotta win everything, right? It's not enough to just put the vice president in the White House as president, even though that's incredibly important. We need to keep the Senate, potentially expand it. We certainly need to win the House.
You have to win it. You have to win everything, and everything is an uphill battle too, because of the wide systemic enjoyment, or the systemic advantages that Republicans enjoy in basically every way that you cut up every single state or federal office, which is incredibly.
No, I mean, it's funny. It's funny how Republicans have such beef with affirmative action, given that the entire political system in this country is affirmative action for Republicans in many respects. Yeah, in the sense that it's not a particularly popular party with particularly popular ideas. So. Besides reforming EMS and besides gun control legislation, I saw on your website that women's health is really important to you as well. Could you talk a bit more about that?
Yeah, that's what's driving so many people to the polls this year is, reproductive freedoms. And Kamala Harris, when she still is vice president, but when she was, running for another term as vice president, she kicked off her women's reproductive freedom tour in Waukesha, right in the heart of my district. She kicked off her women's reproductive tours. My wife and I got to go to that event. There was only probably 300 or 400 people that got invited to that event, and it was just really cool to see that she chose. I mean, obviously they chose Wisconsin because they knew that it's going to be an uphill battle. They chose Waukesha because Waukesha is such a Republican area, and they wanted to just kind of show like, hey, like look at all these Democrats that we can turn out. And I would like to think that she did it because she's like, hey, Ben's going to be an incredible U.S. Congress member, and so I want to kick this off right in the heart of his district. So
was probably number 1 minutes from that high school. We were literally like 5 minutes away from that high school.
Oh, wow.
So it was just really cool that she kicked off the tour there, and it's like I said, that's what's driving people to go out and vote. That's what's driving young people to go out and vote. I was at an event a couple months ago, and I had an old woman while I was up there giving a speech. I talked about, I touched on how important like reproductive freedom is and how it affects women like so directly. And this old woman, got her cane and she stood up in the middle of my speech. She was sitting right in the front row. So I just kind of stopped and I was like, yeah? And she goes, it doesn't just affect women, it affects men just as much. And ever since then, like I really, try and like push that forward too, because, it is, if you're trying to build a family and you can't, Governor Walz touched on this too, both of his kids, he had them because of IVF, and like whenever you say reproductive freedoms, all the Republicans hear is abortion. You're murdering babies. And it's like, no, that's not at all what it is.
It's not just murdering babies. There's other stuff going on.
And so, like that's all they hear. But then you hear these heartbreaking stories of, all these women in Texas, Alabama, Georgia, Mississippi, Idaho that are, being forced to, die, essentially. And in some cases, they are dying because they can't get health care they need. And if they don't die, it ends up they have to have, like, like a total hysterectomy because they're like, hey, like your baby making parts got all messed up. You're never going to have a kid again. So we've got to take them out so they don't, cause cancer, ovarian cancer down the road. And it's just like, that's so heartbreaking because you hear these Republicans just always say, we're for the family. We want to build families. Our birth rate's falling. And it's like, what have you guys done to help that birth rate? You've, basically stripped away, any like maternal rights that women had. You've stripped away prenatal care. You've stripped away, like universal pre-K. You've stripped away child tax credits. And to be fair, they did put the child tax credit in the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, but we still need to expand
not
it.
Not as much as it was under.
Correct.
Yeah.
President Biden enhanced it.
He enhanced
and then
it,
50
yes.
Senate Republicans, including Senator Johnson, killed it. And then when President Biden brought it back up just a couple of months ago, Republicans shot it down again, including J.D. Vance. He voted, he refused to vote. He abstained. So they have no record on which to speak, really, with respect to the child tax credit. Not really. And to your point, they claim to be the party, like a pro-family party, but I would argue they're the pro-forced birth party because to them, like in their minds, it's like as soon as you leave the birth canal, that's when life ends because then the government should just totally step away, wash its hands.
I will say I was surprised that, well, maybe not actually because he's a spineless coward and he's not going to follow through on anything, but I was surprised to hear Vance actually talk about that at the debate. I think he mentioned that the Republicans have a huge weakness and that once a baby's born, they basically don't care at all about it. So
George Carlin has a great skit about, Republican. I mean, this is back in the late 80s, early 90s. For those of you that don't know who George Carlin is, a hilarious comedian. I would go and look him up. He's hilarious. The 7 bad words you can't say on TV?
Yeah.
That was
he has
classic
that whole
act,
skit too.
He definitely came a lot darker in his later
Yes, he did.
specials,
Yeah.
but yeah.
Yes, he did. But yeah, so, he has a skit that basically says, the same thing, that, they're hoorah-rah all about this baby. The second that baby takes its first breath, like, they could give less of a shit about that kid.
Yeah.
And it's so frustrating to have to battle against that and still have people be like, well, they're the party, the pro-family party. Show me with your actions. You haven't ever. And that's why it's such an uphill battle to try and reprogram these people and just say, hey, you guys, like, let's actually look at the facts, and it's just tough.
Yeah, it really is. I mean, I will say, you say actions speak louder than words. I mean, anointing Donald Trump to be the leader of your party, or are you saying that that's not a pro-family proposition there? Like, by making Donald Trump the leader of the pro-family party, you don't think that aligns?
He's had more families than me, so that
he has had
that is
much
And now he's
family.
allied with Elon Musk, who has even more families. So, I mean...
I touched on that in both my speeches earlier today too, that we have it's supposed to be the party of the working class, party of the family, this and that, and you go, okay, it's a billionaire who just got endorsed by the richest man in the entire world. And I don't understand how you can't look at that and be, the big boogeyman on the left is George Soros. Did he pay for this place? He's the one running this whole thing? Is George Soros money?
We can't mention
We're gonna
that.
cut that off. Yeah. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
So
you're right.
You know,
No,
it's just
I
like
said a lot
they talk
that-
about this, big bad boogeyman.
Elon
and
Musk is
he's doing
everything.
everything that they say George Soros is doing.
Yeah.
I haven't gotten one check from George yet.
Yeah.
And it's ridiculous because Elon is literally funding. He's funding the on-the-ground workers. You guys are helping with the people knocking on the doors here in this area all weekend, and Elon Musk is doing the same thing, but on a much more massive level because he's pouring millions and millions and millions of dollars into this race right here in Wisconsin.
And
I think
more than that, he's put on his profile now too. Did you see that he's got is it Save America PAC or something?
That's the name of the pack, but what do you do?
He that's in his Twitter profile now. So he's like advertising it on his thing. I think he added it
For
yesterday.
real?
Yes, it's in his Twitter profile right now. If you go and click it's the link at the bottom.
And I think it's so
Solid.
rich, especially from Wisconsin Republicans, because we had amendments, and was that back in April or was that in August that we had? No, it was in April, right? The Zuckerbucks thing that they had.
That was
They got voted-
August. That was the August.
That was in the August primary, yeah, and it ended up passing, saying that no outside organization can help fund elections in the state of Wisconsin. So for those of you that don't know about the whole Zuckerbucks thing, Mark Zuckerberg was giving a lot of money to every single state in the U.S., basically just to help fund the elections. And you can, you say help fund the elections, and people are like, well, I don't think billionaires should be doing that. And what he was doing was he was literally helping municipalities buy, like chairs and ballots and pay
They
for
were
their
liberal
machines.
chairs, weren't they?
I
They were
guess
one
so.
of
Voting
the-
machines
Yeah.
from Dominion under Hugo Chavez's supervision.
He was literally helping, and because you get paid to be a poll worker too, so he was literally just giving money to states, and the states would spend that money how they see fit. And now in the state of Wisconsin, no outside place can give any money whatsoever to help our elections. So now we have a ton of very rural areas that are scrambling going, I don't know how the fuck we're going to pay for this election. So they're going to have people just volunteer their time to go and do this. And it's just going to be... It's going to be an interesting November 5th, to say the least. But, they're complaining about Mark Zuckerberg pouring these millions of dollars to influence elections when, again, Elon Musk is literally doing what they're saying. And, as much as I dislike Mark Zuckerberg, but, that's still a good thing to do to help make sure that everybody can vote. Because, it wasn't these liberal machines. It was literally
Right.
just...
It was infrastructure.
It was
chairs,
infrastructure
yeah,
to do
space.
what they're doing.
Yeah.
And it's so frustrating to have to battle this on top of talking about policy, And so that's why, William and I have such uphill battles, but we're out here every day trying to make it work and trying to move that needle every time.
It's literally what Steven said yesterday when he was talking about how conservatives purposely make public institutions fail so that they can swoop in and privatize them, except now
Yep.
they're banning the privatization effort because it's from someone they don't like. So the infrastructure for voting doesn't exist because the public funding for it has been slashed and now we don't have alternatives.
Yeah.
That was definitely Hutch that said that, but I'll take credit for it. But I did agree, though. I do agree, and to go another step further in other ways that happens. This happens a lot when it comes to the fake news stuff, to where there's two common ways to think about it. One is the meme way, where somebody will say Haitians are eating dogs and cats in Ohio. It's okay. Well, you know that this was all fake, right? And well, what does it say about our society that I could even believe it was real? It's it says you're a fucking idiot. That's what it says. Or when conservatives will do things where, they will intentionally foment all of this distrust in our institutions and our lack of trust in, voting. Yeah. And then afterwards, everybody will have problems. They're like, well, what's going on? And conservatives say, well, look, nobody trusts the system. That's what we have to deal with. It's they don't trust it because you made shit up all the fucking time. Of course they don't trust it. You've been lying about it for a year.
Steven, we got to audit the 2020 election.
Why?
Because
everybody thinks it was stolen. Why?
Well, sure, because I've been telling them, but yeah, exactly. It's it's a racket. And it is
a racket.
Yes,
it's an actual racket.
I mean, it's like that Eric Andre meme, who shoots the person in the chair? Who would have done something like this? That's what the Republicans run on all the time.
Well, except it almost would fit, but you'd have to change the caption to "He shoots it," and then he would say, "Why would the Democrats do this?"
Yeah, why would the
Exactly.
Democrats do this?
Yes.
So on that subject, that's my final question for you. Is you offered an affirmative agenda if you win. Worst case scenario, Donald Trump wins the presidency, Republicans take back the Senate, and they keep control of the House. What would your opponent help control? What's the sort of agenda that a Scott Fitzgerald, Donald Trump Republican agenda, what would that look like?
So,
worst case scenario.
For those of you that haven't run a congressional race before, or like not super involved in politics, every organization out there gives like a rating, either an ABC or a percentage rating. So the NRA, I haven't ever voted on anything, and they've classified me as an F- rating. I haven't done a single thing. Thank you, William. I haven't done a single thing, and they've already said that, oh, he's F- on the NRA. Like, I think you should have guns. I believe in the Second Amendment, but fucking wait 2 weeks to get a gun. Like, how hard is that?
I love guns. I have a lot of guns. I hate the NRA. The NRA is just so gross and so disgusting. I think the worst thing I saw was around the BLM time when I started to notice how selective the NRA was when they championed the people who I was like, oh, like was it Castile? Who was it? It was a black guy in a car, and the cop shot him because he smelled weed. He
was like a
I think it was Philando Castile.
Yeah.
And it's like, this seems like a pretty good.
Too. Yeah,
this is like a pretty good person for you guys to speak out against, and desperately searching for NRA comment on this, and it's like nothing. NRA just.
And so my opponent Scott Fitzgerald has an A+ rating with the NRA. But one of the other ratings that he has is I don't know if you guys have heard of the Heritage Foundation before.
Yeah.
Anybody?
Didn't they make
Project 2025.
Oh, that one.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
don't give him any ideas. We were already dealing with 2025. We don't need the expanded.
So yeah, they're the authors behind Project 2025, and my opponent Scott Fitzgerald. Would anybody care to venture a guess as to what his percentage rating is, voting the way that the Heritage Foundation likes?
I'm gonna give him an A-.
You said percentage, Steven. I'm gonna say 92.
A- is understood to be between 90 and 93%.
Well, you're both wrong. You're way low.
It was 98%.
97%.
Yeah.
Oh.
97%.
I just said that because I knew you'd copy my answer.
So
He tricked me. Damn it.
he has, his entire career, being in state politics, now being in federal office. He has voted
98%. I'm sorry.
He has voted, in lockstep with the furthest right of the Republican Party.
Yeah.
And I will say, to his credit, he, votes terribly and always against his own constituents, but he's quiet about it.
Oh, okay.
He's very quiet about it. And
he's not Marjorie Taylor Greene. He's like the antithesis.
But going off of that, one of the things that really pushed me into the race was after the 2022 State of the Union. My brother, he was still alive at that point, and my brother sent me a picture the morning after the State of the Union, and I'm sitting at work. It's like 6:30 in the morning, sitting at work, and I look at my phone, and it was a picture of Marjorie Taylor Greene looking like a frickin' howler monkey in her big like fur coat, screaming at Joe Biden, and you see my opponent Scott Fitzgerald sitting right there, just chuckling his little ass off. And I saw that picture, and I was like, oh my, doing it. And I texted my brother back, and I just said, I'm in. Because him and I have been talking back and forth, hey, you can do this. Do you want to do it, this and that? And he sends me that picture, and I think he knew exactly how to push my buttons. And so he sent me that, and right away I texted him back, and I was just like, let's do it. And I emailed the firm that helped me get all my paperwork and everything in. I emailed them maybe 20 minutes after that, and we were off to the races. Because after I saw that picture, I was like, this guy is just such...
He's almost like
a bad representative.
Sounds almost like you'd almost, from the sounds of it, in a way it's kind of cowardly in the sense that he probably sounds like he agrees with everything that Marjorie Taylor Greene says and does, but he's just not going to be bold enough to say it. Mm-hmm. And I remember vividly...
Spineless jellyfish, like you said earlier.
I was going to say, I remember vividly when it was just a colossal breach of decorum when anyone would speak out against a president during the State of the Union. Remember Obama... As somebody said, I think it was you lie or whatever.
Lie. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and
that was Stephen Roberts, wasn't it? Supreme Court Justice?
No.
It was somebody it must have been a congressman.
It was a congressman. Alito was caught on camera at one State of the Union, either shaking his head or saying that's a lie, mouthing it.
Oh, okay.
And he's never been been back. He's been too busy flying flags of a different sort, but
his wife does all the flag flying. It's a hobby of hers.
Yeah, got some strong opinions on that. But anyway, getting back to what you were talking about in terms of what if he wins and if Trump wins the presidency, basically we have a Republican unified government. What could that look like for your constituents?
I mean, I've never seen The Handmaid's Tale, but my wife watches it all the time. And she tells me that that's probably what it's going to look like. She made me watch one scene of it, not to get too graphic, but it was I don't know if you guys have seen it before. No? Okay,
I think
don't
Steven
watch
says
it.
his favorite show.
Are we talking about a show or a movie?
The Handmaid's
It's
Tale.
a book.
It's a book that was
TV
turned
series.
into TV
We're
series.
Americans. We don't do the
There's
whole
a
book
there's
thing.
a Japanese movie,
It's a
or I think
book.
called The Handmaiden, but I think you're talking about The Handmaid's Tale, which is
It's
a
like a
book into a
dystopic-
TV. Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
It's a Netflix series.
With like a
I
super
believe.
far right wing, like essentially Christo-fascist, ended up taking over everything. And the one scene that she showed me that's the only one I've seen, and I'm like, I do not want to watch any more of this. They choose like women essentially that they want to get pregnant, and so the wife is sitting next to this woman laying in bed, and the husband is impregnating her, and they're all just sitting there just looking at each other. And I'm like, why the fuck are you showing this to me? And she's like, this is what the show is. And I was like, this is the scene you choose to show me to go, oh, you're gonna get into it. No, the guy had nightmares from that. But like all jokes aside, like I mean, that's kind of where they're going with it. Is just they want to ban porn in states. They've done it in like what 6 states? They've banned Pornhub. Like you said young voters don't vote, so
Why are you playing look at this.
Yeah, what'd you say? I'm sorry, what about Pornhub? I'm sorry. Yeah.
But no, like if there's going to be one thing that's going to get like 18-year-olds in Indiana to vote, it's banning Pornhub. So it's just there's these people claim to love the Bill of Rights and Constitution, but anytime I bring up the fact that they talk about separation of church and state in there, they go, nope, it was a Christian government. And I was like, no, I don't think so. I'll read it again, but I don't think that's what it says in there.
No, they're very much moving away as far as possible from the constitutional conservative ideals. We can have a whole conversation about that. But yeah, so you think that there's a strong chance that would happen if they get unified control of government?
I mean,
Embarrassing for you
Yeah.
to misspeak like that.
Yes.
I mean, yeah, I do, and I, like as you were a little bit joking, but I do kind of think that Vance is the puppet they want to put in to enact all these things. Because after the debate, we were at a debate watch party, and we were talking afterwards, and there's a couple people there that were like, Vance didn't sound too bad, and I was like, hold the phone. I was like, that is the point. That is their goal. Like, did you not hear him say, right away in the beginning when he got fact checked, I thought the rules were that you weren't going to fact check me. It should have been debate over right there. I just can't believe that anybody gets up on stage and just freely lies like that. Like, I don't know everything, and if I misspeak, like, please call me out on it, because I would like to grow and be better as a person.
You'd be a
and more
knucklehead like
informed.
Governor Walz. Like, I'm a knucklehead.
Yeah, sorry he misspoke, about something 31 years ago, that he was there, 8 weeks before it happened?
Exactly.
He said he was there that summer.
That's disqualifying, sir. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. In hindsight, Walz could have crushed that debate so easily by pulling out a box of donuts and asking J.D. Vance to select one. Like, just going up and, instead of asking him who won the 2020 election, because obviously Vance was never going to answer that question, honestly. But he could have been like, J.D., pick one. Pick a donut. And that would have been the end of it.
Wait, what's the joke?
Did you not ever see J.D. Vance try to order donuts?
When he was at the restaurant or the donut shop?
Yeah.
Well, but then he would pick one, and then what would happen?
It would be the most awkward thing. He would implode on stage. He'd be like, give me
what-
one of the multicolored confection one.
Yeah, he was supposed to
Whatever
be there,
makes
look
sense.
like just a normal guy ordering donuts, and he gets there, and how long have you worked here? And it's just like, oh my god.
And then would
yeah.
never actually engage with the question. He'd just go like, okay, and then his eyes would
Awkward
flicker
pause.
as he. Yeah, exactly.
But then at the end, when the lady was finally just like, okay, pick your donuts, what do you want? And he goes, a couple of these ones, a couple of those, whatever you think is right. Like, that's weird, man. That's just weird. Whatever you think is right.
Well, at least the rest of us think it's weird, Steven. You might not.
That might video. I thought that donut ordering was okay.
Is that right? It was like.
Are you super
yeah.
socially awkward?
No.
No.
Because I will say that my wife is terrible at ordering things, and whenever we have to like order anything, all of our friends, we all know now that we're just like, oh god, here comes Vicky, and I love her to death. I really, really do. But what was it, like 2 weeks ago, a month ago, Vicky?
Yeah.
That we were ordering breakfast, and she panicked. She told the waitress, like, because she just said, and how do you want your eggs? I don't know.
It's a loaded
I'm panicking. What do you think? And the waitress like looked at me like, what do you mean? What do I think? And I was just like, oh my god, Vicky. So I can relate to people having ordering anxiety, but I mean, if you're running, she's not running for vice president. You know, she's just a humble doctor.
Yeah.
The Onion made the joke that he malfunctioned on stage and Peter Thiel had to walk up behind him and reset him from behind. Yeah.
You have any?
Do you want us to twirl around,
Yeah.
ballerina?
I would like each of you to stand up, twirl, do a little twerk. That'll be great. Very good to end.
What do you have to say to young Americans? What's the best way that you can inspire people to vote? Where can people find your information? Yeah, leave us on something positive.
You can go to wisconsinforben.com and follow me on all social medias. Wisconsin for Ben. See, that shows how much I'm on social media. We have a social media manager, Braden, who's doing an amazing job. I just tell him, what to put, and he does it all for me. Because again, I don't know when to post things. I was posting tweets at 7, 8 o'clock in the morning. He's like, "What are you doing?" There's engagement hours. So tell me all about that. But yeah, you can go to wisconsinforben.com and just vote, please. Get out, vote, register, make sure that you're registered. I know that there's a bunch of states in the South. The last day to register is this Monday, so please make sure that you are registered. Make sure you have, all your ducks in a row. Make a plan, get a friend, get out and vote. That's all we can do. It's the only way you can get your voice heard is by actually going out and voting, and we truly can change it because this 18 to 35 demographic is the most untapped voter block that is out there. The Christian right has their block, and that's how they got abortion overturned. So we need the 18 to 35 block to be the common sense, WTF people, let's get out, let's get our voices heard, and let's get that supermajority in the Senate, let's take back the House, and let's legalize marijuana, right? I think people can jump behind that. First 100 days, I'll make sure that I push President Harris to legalize marijuana in those first 100 days. I will be your guys' advocate for it. So let's do it, and thank you guys so much for being here. Thank you for being here this weekend, knocking on doors because it is so important. Go out, volunteer for your local county parties. Just go on Google, type in your county and Democratic Party, see when their meetings are, go knock doors for them. I guarantee they're out every Saturday, Sunday. So,
and then can I just add one quick thing on the end of that? A loss isn't even necessarily a loss. There are a lot of districts that can be deeply one color. And if you bring these districts closer, even if you don't win an election, the party will notice that. And there might be districts that weren't competitive before, and then you see somebody else ran that hasn't run in a while in that district, a blue seat that has really tried. And next election season, there might be money allocated towards that district, or even seeing it change a bit might cause people to reconsider the chances of running there, and it might change things in the future. So even if unfortunately a campaign doesn't succeed, success isn't only measured by winning seats, it's also measured by creating future opportunities for people to run as well. So
and inspiring people.
Yeah, cool. Okay. Well, we'll see you around.
Appreciate it, Ben.
Thank you guys. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Take care.